My name is Marek, and I'll be presenting about Arduino, basically giving a brief introduction to what it is, what's there, how to use it. Well, it might not be that difficult for you guys after finishing this course, but there's some interesting stuff that's out there, and it's maybe good to just have it in one place. Okay, so first, what it is, it's an open source physical computing platform, at least that's what the authors or creators say. It has three parts, so basically the thing that you can see here on the screenshot is a microcontroller board, which looks similar to the mini board that we were using in the course, because it's not that much different really. The other thing is language, which is basically C, C++ with some additional libraries. And the third thing is the IDE, which is based on processing language IDE. And okay, so some more detail. Basically, the Arduino boards are based on Atmega family of chips, so starting from 168, 328, 1280. Some of them use Mega 644. Basically, the difference is the number of inputs and flash memory on board, and sometimes some additional features like LEDs that are on board, some buttons, things like that. As I said, it's based on wiring board. This is a previous project that someone tried to do a similar thing, but it didn't really take off. The regular version is called Duemilanova. That's the basic version, current version. The cool thing about it, it's open source design, so all the files that you need to actually get it, well, build it yourself are out there, or the schematics, instructions, and things like that. So, and many people have done that, and there are many different versions of it. So these are the features of the basic version. So 14 digital I/O, 6 of which can be used as full Swift modulated output, 6 analog inputs, with 60 MHz crystal, 32 kilobytes flash USB connection, and since it's the only difference between this processor and 168 that miniboard uses is the memory. It looks basically the same, other than the fact that the miniboard has a motor driver on it. Okay, so the second thing is the language. So processing language was intended as a fast prototyping language for artists, people who need to create some kind of electronic installations that will either draw some graphs or blink some lights, do things like that. So it was intended to be simple, and as you see here, this is level of abstraction over what we would usually see in AVR Studio, where you would be accessing ports, pins in a more direct manner than here. Basic structure is each program has two functions, setup and loop. Setup is called once, loop is called repeatedly. That's nothing new. Programs are not compiled directly, which means that that code that we saw on the previous slide is basically translated to that and then compiled. And then the IDE, it's based on processing, as I said, which looks basically the same. And the terminology they called project sketches for some reason, probably because it was intended as fast sketch, fast prototyping. It only has 7 buttons, which is pretty funny, I would say. So you can run, stop, create new, sketch, open, save, upload, and monitor the serial output, which is like hyperterminal basically. And it hides a lot of features, which has some advantages and disadvantages. If someone knows about registers, pins, wants to look inside, there's no way to do it using this IDE. Okay, so pros and cons of using Arduino. So some advantages: it's easy to get started with microcontroller programming, but after this course, it's I guess we're all started and doing pretty well. No need for reading microcontroller datasheet because a lot of information is hidden away. Oops. Much of the programming complexity is abstracted. There are a lot of examples. However, there are some disadvantages to that as well. Advanced applications would require you to access everything just as you would in AVR Studio. So this is nice for someone who has never seen a microcontroller board before and wants to basically use simplified version of C to do some simple stuff like blink LEDs or do not so complicated applications. And when you actually want to do it, it's not. There's no direct way to do it here. You still have to use AVR Studio, or basically rely on your memory and import the regular libraries from AVR Studio within processing IDE. The other thing is there are a lot of libraries for a lot of pieces of hardware, but then when there is no library, you still have to do everything yourself. And as I said, it's not that easy from within this IDE. And also, because it's aimed towards people who have never used this kind of stuff, a lot of materials are very simple, but when you want to go to the next level, there's not much substance there. And no real tutorials that would go deep into the complicated stuff or more complicated stuff. Even stuff like timers, interrupts, there's not much materials. Okay, Arduino, Freeduino, Cduino, and Wine. So openness versus innovation, that's the main credo I want to say of this project. And there are multiple versions of Arduino, but then this creates another problem. There's so many things to pick from that, and so many tiny differences that it's hard to decide what to get. So this is going to be quick. I'll try to give it a quick an overview of what's there. So I've already talked about that, so I'm not going to spend time on this. This is just the basic version, I would say. This is Arduino Mega, which has more inputs and outputs, more than twice analog inputs, which might be important in robotics application if you don't want to use comparators to basically get digital values.
Sorry, could you just go back one second?
Sure.
On communications there, we see it's TX3, RX3, TX2. So there's 3 serial ports, and
yes.
And then I think it's I2C or everything there. I think the 324 or 328 has 2 serial ports, and the 168 we've been using has 1.
No.
Is that correct?
No, both of them have only 1. The 328 and the 168 are pretty much exactly the same, except it has more memory flash and RAM.
Yeah, because on this robot thing I'm building there, I think maybe I've got 324 then. Okay, I've got a similar number, but it has 2 serial ports.
Yeah.
Like you start 0 and 1.
The numbering system is a little bit.
Yeah, I just figured it was. I remembered it wrong. Sorry, please go ahead. So this one, the 1280, looks like, unless they're doing something special with an external chip, which I don't think they are, it looks like it actually has 3 serial ports.
Yes.
3 serial ports.
Great.
Okay, the other thing is Arduino Nano, which is like a smaller version of the Duo Milanova. Same functionality of Mega 328. It doesn't have a DC fire jack, but it's considerably smaller. It uses mini USB. Might be good for both prototyping and actually deploying in simple projects. Then there's even a smaller version called Arduino Mini, surprisingly. Which doesn't even have USB header, so basically you would have to have a cable and program it off a cable, basically connect directly to the pins. And it uses a smaller, earlier chip at Mega 168, low voltage, if I remember correctly. So this, you basically deploy your project using that. You can prototype using bigger board, which is easier to do, and then send it up with this. Okay, one interesting thing is LilyPad. That's a weird board because it's actually intended to be used with textiles. So you can sew it on a t-shirt, hoodie, or I don't know, a backpack, or whatever else you want. And it doesn't have regular wires. It has a conductive thread that you can basically sew on this to make connections. It's waterproof, which is always nice when you have something that you put on your clothing. So you can just sew it on and
Waterproof?
yeah.
How do you connect the power to it? If the thread
Well,
is
you're
not
supposed to
connected-
disconnect the power, right? But
So the
basically,
integrity of the board is going to change a lot. Just so you can unplug the power.
yeah, basically they have shields in this size, or like expansion boards in this size and shape that you can put on, like underneath or on the inside of your whatever you're wearing, right? And just take off when you